Hi guys, just got done watching the Tales from the Darkside Season 1 Episode 8 episode The Word Processor of the Gods from the 25th of November 1984, and it stars Bruce Davidson, Karen Shallow, Patrick Pacini, Bill Kane, John Shear and Miranda Beeson. Okay, so basically the main character in this is Richard Hagstrom, who's basically a Megan Henpecked struggling writer. And basically you find out that his son doesn't ever listen to him and he's playing loud music all the time and never shuts up, basically. So you can imagine how hard it is for a struggling writer to concentrate when your son's playing loud music constantly. So he gets a parcel in the post from Tom Nordoff, who brings it round with him. And it's basically from his nephew Jonathan, who earlier in the show you find out that he died in a car crash that went off a cliff because his drunk father killed him, Linda and Belinda and Jonathan. And basically the word processor is what Jonathan made himself. So basically he takes it downstairs and he plugs it in. Now it just looks like a wooden box because, well, it's supposed to be like a computer. It's actually quite funny looking at it because it looks very dated, just a lot like Mookie and Pookie, that episode. But it's just so cool to watch these things because it makes you realise how far ahead we've come since the 80s. So basically he's working on it and he's doing things like it, and he says something like, my wife's picture is in the study or something, and it disappears. And then he may realise it returns again. So he realises what he puts in the computer can actually happen. So he puts some stuff in there and he's shocked by what happens. And he just can't believe his luck. It's like, wow, this really is a happy birthday because it's on his birthday. And he's like, oh, I miss my nephew Jonathan and all this stuff. And he basically, Seth, his son, knocks out the fuse. So he types in, my son Seth Hagstrom is basically thing. He deletes it and the music just stops. So his son disappears. And the funny thing about it is his wife, Lena, she doesn't remember the son at all. And she says to him about the process and she goes, does it work? And he goes, no, not really. It doesn't really work that well. And she goes, well, if it does work and you want to wish for some money. And we're all thinking, yeah, why doesn't he just wish for loads and loads of money? Because I think that's what most of us would do. So he then goes downstairs and basically makes her disappear. And then all of a sudden the process starts overloading. He quickly wants to type in Belinda and Jonathan, or his wife and son, because he really wants his perfect family. And to him, they would have been his perfect family. So basically at the end, spoiler, it overloads, it explodes, and then we see Jonathan and we see Belinda. And you're like, oh, because it's a real happy ending for him. But at the same time, as much as I like this episode, and I really felt it, because this story was written by Stephen King originally. And it's a Stephen King story. And you can kind of see it. But at the same time, I'm like, where's the darkness of it? There were a few bits of it where you're like, oh, that's a bit creepy and stuff. But the problem is this has too much of a happy ending. When you watch a horror anthology show, you don't want to see a happy ending. You want to see something kind of shocking, maybe a bit scary. Not too scary because it's PG, but you get what I mean. And I do like the episode a lot. I did like it, but Stephen King wrote the episode. And you could really see, like I said, his elements are there. One of the things I liked as well was the characters. Everybody played the characters, played them very well. You can believe that Lina was a real piece of crap, basically, and that she was always on his back. You could tell by his son, because his son doesn't do anything other than basically shout and play music, which is probably the best role for that character. I would like to have seen more of Belinda, more of Jonathan. There is a scene where he remembers Jonathan, and Jonathan goes, I better get onto it for you, Uncle Richard, because I'm not going to be around long. And you're like, But from what I've heard, that there was an episode similar to this on the Twilight Zone in the 50s. 50s, 60s. And it was not the same because obviously the computers and everything, but it was kind of updated. So I'm looking forward to eventually seeing that episode so I can see where it basically is, you know. So yeah, overall this was a good episode. I did like it. I found it a lot of fun. Not one of my favourites, like Mookie and Pookie. It's okay, but it's not what I'd call a horror thing. I want to see more like It's in the Closet and stuff, because I want to see it for that. But it is a fun episode. I do recommend it. Bruce Davison is fantastic. Richard is lovable, and you feel bad for him because he's meek and, like I said, henpecked. Lena Hagstrom is fantastic as Karen Shallow. You believe that she's very shallow, but she's on his back constantly and doesn't really care about what the son does. Seth Robert Hagstrom, his son, is played by Patrick Piccinini. He's okay and he's good for the role. Bill Kane, who plays Tom Lordoff, actually calls him in the show and actually warns him and says to him, you know, maybe you should be careful. And, well, Richard doesn't listen, and there's nothing really horrific that happens in the end. So he had no reason to listen, did they? And John Shue played Joffrey. He was very lovable and very great, and I enjoyed his character because you just felt like his drunk dad had just taken his life away. And it was kind of good to see that they're back alive again, but they're with Richard, because he seems like the kind of lovable father type if you appreciate him. So overall, it was a great episode. I enjoyed it. I highly recommend it to you. I just would say, if you're looking for a horror episode, like you pick an episode out and you want a horror one, this isn't the one. Sadly, even though it's written by Stephen King, it's not the one. But it's one to watch if you're watching the series, because I enjoyed it anyway. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and have a lovely day, and look forward to my next Tales of the Dark Side episode review.